You're listening to Developmental, Property and the Mind podcast, where development industry insight meet mindset with Trafalgar CEO Joe Abboud. Join one of the property industry's most free thinkers as he explores the path to success and contentment.
Hi, my name is Joe Abboud and welcome to today's episode of Developmental. Do you ever ask yourself, if you're ever at that crossroad, is this now an opportunity? You know, there's books out there are seminars, there are gurus, there are courses. You tend to look at those things and ask yourself, what does it really take to make real change? So our next guest, Craig Morris, specialises in helping people see their path and take those next steps, right? His business leadership creativity is all about helping businesses grow and putting people first. In essence, creating systems and processes to ensure success and allowing them to become masters in their art and accelerate their performance and become masters of their own destiny. I'm really excited about this conversation, guys. Craig, I'd like to welcome you today.
Thanks, Joe. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Tell us more about what you do and how you're helping businesses grow.
So I think we mentioned it earlier. The secret to any successful business is the people. And it's the performance of the people and their ability to show up, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually and intellectually as well. And what we focus on is helping the people be the best version of themselves that they can be. If you can do that in life, you're doing pretty well. And if you do that in business, your business is going to do pretty well. And it's all about developing leaders and great leaders as well. So if you've got great leadership in your business, and leadership is all about developing the people around you, if you're, as a business owner or a business leader, if you're focused on developing the people around you and helping them be the best they can be and being the best you can be yourself, you're going to be successful.
So the topic of leadership for me is really interesting. Talk to me about what leadership is to you.
To me, leadership is really about focusing on the people around you and developing the people around you.
So empowering,
developing. When we first get a job, when we're young, it's all about ourselves. It's all about how can I do the best job I can, how can I earn more money, how can I get a promotion, me. But when you move into leadership, it's all about, the focus shifts from me to the people around me. And how can I help them deliver the result? How can I help them grow and learn and empower them to be the best version of themselves that they can be?
Well, leadership can be a great ship to sail, yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an old saying in the management days, before leadership was such the current term, that managers float to success from the coattails of the people around them. And that's really what leadership is. It's not about being the authoritarian, making sure you're in control. It's like a great leader knows that they don't know everything.
So in essence, as a coach, that's a form of leadership in itself, because you're showing them, you're empowering them in a way to become the best versions of themselves in order to deliver outcomes, to create success by becoming the best versions of themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here at the moment. And so coaching at the moment is just an enormous industry. Why do you think it's become so popular? Interesting
question. And I think about this quite a lot, because there's abundance of coaches and there's abundance of people who call themselves coaches, because it's unregulated. It's easy to get into the coaching industry. I think there's some very, very successful people around the world who have utilised coaches, great coaches, and have become more successful, and that's starting to spread. And there's some key people around the world that sort of talk about how important coaching is. And I think there's becoming a wider awareness that it doesn't matter how much experience you've got, how much you know, there is always more. We can always improve, because we're all a product of our experience and whatever we experienced in life. And I don't think anybody has experienced everything there is to experience. So if you're working with different people who have had different experiences, different knowledge, that can help us to learn and grow within our own experiences.
One of the most important factors for me was tapping into a wealth of knowledge and experience and allowing me to avoid making some of the critical mistakes that can be detrimental early on in a business. So I listened to something the other day, and if you could get through 999 days of your business, that generally you'll become successful in making a hell of a lot of decisions along the way, right? So talk to me about, how you've been able to stick to the plan, basically.
Stick to the plan.
I think I heard a saying once that a millionaire looks at his plan once a day and a billionaire looks at it twice a day.
Yeah.
Right? So, that in itself, I heard that on a show of some sort at the time, and it stuck with me forever, because looking at it twice a day keeps you in check and keeps you on track, and you're sticking to the plan. Once a day kept you on the plan, but you digressed for a while and you weren't as efficient, right? So I guess it goes back to the 999 days, back to 99 days, right? So efficiently on the 999 days, looking at them twice a day cuts it in half.
Potentially, yeah.
In essence, right? And I'm not saying that happens with everybody, but that's pretty cool. So why do you do what you do?
I love it. It's interesting.
That's a cool answer. I love that.
It's one of the most rewarding things when you see someone that you're working with achieve something that they previously thought was impossible. That's the best feeling. It satisfies all my needs in terms of, I get significance, contributing to other people, and contribution is one of the most important things in life. When you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, it's incredibly fulfilling. I get so much satisfaction out of it. And it's interesting, when I was young, looking back, and I didn't realise this at the time, but looking back, I've always been the type of person who wanted to help and share my knowledge, and whatever I knew, I just wanted to share it. When I was a kid, like a teenager, people used to call me a know-it-all. It's like, no, I don't know everything, but what I do know, I want to share and help people with. So if I learnt something, I'd instantly get if I had the opportunity, I'd enlighten someone on whatever it was that I knew.
So I faced that recently on my travels, and I used to share some stuff with my friends, and some of the stuff I shared seemed to have upset them. And I never understood why. And then my mate wrote to me the other day, and he said, I want to apologise. And he said, why is that? He said, because I just learnt the difference between you being honest and what my perception of you that was, I thought you were being insensitive. But it wasn't you being insensitive, it was you sharing stuff honestly. And because you wore your heart on your sleeve, you seem to have just shared this with me, where most other people would hide it and not share it because they're afraid of offending me or affecting me, right?
One of the challenges that we have as human beings is that we spend too much time comparing and judging. Comparing ourselves to someone else. If they're doing, in Australia, it's the tall poppy syndrome. If they're doing really well, we cut them down.
Before we started today, I spoke to you about learning the art of silence.
Yeah.
And often the issue in most scenarios that you might encounter on your journey is a situation can blow up really quickly, not on the action, but based on your reaction.
Now, this is the interesting thing. We all draw conclusions on things, and that helps understand rather than just respond.
So how did you realise that coaching was the thing that you wanted to do?
It took a while. I think the moment where I realised this is what I want to do for the rest of my life came probably about 2 years into the coaching business, because like everyone, you go through those self-doubts. Like when we started the business, I was like, what are people going to? How can I help people? What am I going to be able to teach? Who am I to think that I can coach people? And then you start to, once you've done a lot of training, I did a lot of personal development, did a lot of training as a coach, and I've learned NLP and all sorts of things. And then you start working with people, and you develop the muscle, you develop the skill of coaching, and suddenly you start to get the breakthroughs, or your clients get the breakthrough, and it's like, right, this is it. And then I realised that this is the passion. It's probably, it feels like it's what I was always meant to be doing at this stage of my life.
So you're saying that in the beginning it was consultancy and then it became coaching, or?
No, not consultancy, it was self-doubt. So my wife and I have a similar background where we've always wanted to help, and we've effectively coached and mentored people before I even realised what that meant. And then we thought, like, right, let's do it. Let's go into coaching. We've done some training, a lot of training and stuff, and it's like it sort of felt right. But then you get the self-doubt. And this is what happens with a lot of people who start a new business, no matter what it is, or even when you try something new. You get outside your comfort zone, you get that self-doubt. It's like, can I really do this? You're in that conscious incompetence stage, and it's a real struggle, and you sort of want to go back to what's comfortable, and then it's like, but we persisted.
So what was the measure, though?
Clients' results. Their level of improvement, their level of satisfaction with what we were doing.
Okay, so you basically were looking at the result rather than your output.
My perception is irrelevant.
Correct.
It's their reality that's important. At the end of the day, there's an acceptance that I can't make anyone do anything. As a coach, I can't make anyone do anything.
Yeah, acceptance is
I have
another big word. Yeah.
I have an old saying which I use amongst friends. It's, you can lead a horse to water, I can stick his head in it, I can drown him, but I still can't make him drink it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. It's, when you have a client, and it's been very few and far between, thankfully, but when you get a client that doesn't respond, you really question your own ability. But then you go through and you tick things off. It's like, right, have I used all my skills? Have I tried everything? Have I used all the right questions? Have I really got to know this person, understand what their challenges are, and really work through, used all of my toolkit, all the things in my toolkit to help this person break through? And it can be really challenging when you get to that point.
So the word challenging is sort of leading me into the next topic, and leads me into asking you about some of the hurdles that you had to overcome in your life. I mean, everybody has challenges. So talk to us about some of the challenges you've had to overcome.
Probably one of the biggest things that I faced in my working career, my first senior leadership role, I was late 20s, sort of mid-late 20s, in charge of a young team, and I just got there through natural ability. I just was offered a job and went, yeah, I'll take it, and I doubled my salary. It was brilliant. And I had a very young team of about 6 people, and I just did what I did, and things got challenging in terms of the business I was working in, and I didn't handle the situation that well. In hindsight, it's very easy to look back and go, yeah, well, I was a bit of an arsehole at times. And as a leader, what I understand about leadership now, in that situation, there were moments when I was a great leader for certain people because I used my style and it worked for them. But for other people, it didn't work. And I used to get really frustrated and angry, and was just a terrible leader. And ended up I got fired. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it was the point where I realised that I needed to learn some new things and I needed to change some things. And as a result, that's when I started my consulting career, and I consulted for 15 years. But I doubled my salary as a result of being fired. I went consulting. My weakness in the reason that I got fired became a massive strength within about 6 months, because I focused on those things, and it made me realise that I had to focus on some different things and improve in certain areas. And this is the thing that I've said to a number of people when I'm coaching with them. It's like, often when you face your greatest adversity, it's when you have the opportunity for the greatest advancement. People can get so negative, so down, so demotivated by the biggest challenge, but that's where the opportunities are.
I think our business at Trafalgar is built on adversity and challenges and problem solving and all that value add that we do, right? We take the path less travelled on everything, right? Give me the site that nobody wants, give us the property that nobody can get approved, all that kind of stuff, and we turn them into opportunities. So, I think adversity has been one of the biggest challenges in my life, and facing that adversity has been the absolute opportunity in every case. And once you develop that ability to turn adversity into opportunity, you're most of the way there.
I can't remember who the quote comes from, but a problem was never solved by focusing on the problem. And I think it's something like you should never spend more than about 20% of your time focused on the problem. It should be 80% on the solution. I've worked through a number of mergers as a consultant, as an employee, where we were going to lose our jobs, and it's like, whenever there's adversity, there's always opportunity. People often talk about, I pride myself on being a positive sort of thinker, but it's not blind positivity. Some people go like, oh, the world is brilliant, roses and unicorns and everything's going to be wonderful. It's like, well, no. However, when you're faced with challenges, no matter how tough or how negative and how bad they may seem, there is always an opportunity that comes from it. It depends on what you look for.
A profound thought that I always get when I'm faced with a challenge is a question I ask myself, or two questions. And they really mean the same thing in my world. What is this trying to teach me?
Good question. Right? Very good question.
Is the best question I can ask myself when faced with a challenge. The other, putting it in a slightly different context, but in my opinion means the same thing, and I said that to some of the staff this morning, is what would God do now? Look, it takes years of practice. It takes a lot of self-control. It takes so much energy of yourself to be mindful of yourself on such a regular basis that's half the struggle, because you spoke before about removing all of the turbulence from around a person or a situation, and allowing yourself to think clearly, not react to all that kind of stuff in order to make sure that the best outcome. So I go back to, I agree with you from your job in your position that you have to concentrate on them, but as in the situation, I think the best answer is to look back into yourself, ask yourself, and control yourself, and hopefully, that allows the situation to dissipate. So,
if I can jump in, a really good technique for that is to breathe deeply into your belly. 4 to 6 times, just breathe deep, because it's one of the most settling things in the human body. And a lot of people, I coach everyone on this, and I do it myself. And often when you feel that someone attacks you, let's say, there'll be some sort of physical response, where it might be in the head, it might be sweaty hands, it might be in the belly, a tight chest, whatever it is. Train yourself to just take 4 to 6 slow, deep breaths into the belly.
So is that part of the process that you took to help you change? I mean, going through all of those hurdles that you had to overcome, how hard was the process of change for you?
At times, it's almost seemed unbearable at the time, in the moment. But I think there's always been that internal knowing that I can do whatever I want to do if I put my mind to it. I don't want to be a brain surgeon, but I know that I've struggled with things at times. I've really challenged myself. I've really struggled to develop the skill to get to that stage of unconscious competence in certain things. And I know I've always overcome it, and I've always got there.
So why do so many people want to change but don't?
Fear. There's many reasons, but I think most of it comes down to fear in some way. Fear of failure, fear of looking like a fool, fear of what will people think of me, fear of I'll never be able to do this, fear of something different.
So they're afraid because they don't know, perhaps?
Potentially. It's fear of something generally. That's the most limiting thing with humans.
Okay, so then you get them to try and change, and then we've got to build a plan, and we're following a plan, and we've got to do all that in order to change or move forward, right, and improve and constantly work on yourself and all of those things, right? How important is it to remember? How important is it to go back and remember that there's a plan, and I need to remind myself that there's a plan, and we go back to that billionaire, millionaire thing, and remember, looking at it once a day, looking at it twice a day. So it brings us back to remembering to remember. How important is that? Critical.
The way the world is today, everyone's so busy. We're so preoccupied with social media and the head in the phone and all the noise that comes at us. There's so much information that comes at us every day. We get tied up in whatever's happening rather than remembering what we're here for, what we're really all about, what our purpose is in life. Remembering that there's so many things that we've been challenged by that we've overcome. There's so much to remember that can help you drive forward. Rather than being scared or fearful of what might happen, remember that, we've been in that situation so many times. There's so many things that I've been concerned about, worried about, didn't think I could do, fearful of, that I've gone ahead and done and got through it, and it's like everything's okay.
And they'd be some of your toughest moments, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then is that the thing that pulls you through it, or like what else? What pulls you through those tough moments?
The two, I talked about fear. On the other side of that is our desire for happiness and success. Fear of pain, moving away from pain, moving towards pleasure. The two basic drivers for humans. So when you develop a fear of the pain of not doing something, and you understand the pleasure of actually doing it, you just get driven to achieve that, because we don't want the pain, but we do want the pleasure. It's a very basic, but it's so true. So often when I'm working with a client and they're struggling to achieve something, it's like find the fear, find the pain that they're moving away from, and then find the pleasure that they want to move towards, and then it sort of just happens.
Transform it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of detail to be dealing with, other people in their daily lives, their dreams, their stresses. How do you not get overwhelmed by all that? How do you manage all that?
One of the things when I was being trained as a coach, one of the basic things for coaches is do not sympathise. We empathise, but we don't sympathise. Because if you sympathise, you get dragged into the emotion of that situation, and then you can't help the person because you're in it. But when you empathise, you have the understanding of what they're going through, but you're not in it. So then I can maintain that disconnected state. I understand what they're going through, and it's like, right, how can I help this person? How can I help them move through it in whatever way?
So you want to be on it, not in it.
Correct, yeah.
We always used to talk about being in the business or on the business.
Same thing. Yeah.
Same sort of thing, yeah?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you find it, like if you're too entrenched in it, that you're never ever able to work on it. And so you're too busy in it and doing it, as opposed to stepping outside of it and and having a look at it from the outside in and working on, how to improve all that, right?
Yeah. So when you're in it, you're too occupied by all the machinations of what's going on in the moment, rather than stepping outside that and looking at it from the outside, looking and going working on the business, because you're not completely your brain's not completely occupied by what's going on. And it's the same emotionally,
And so on the same topic of success, what are some of the highlight moments for you in doing what you do?
There's one that comes to mind when I first started coaching. There was a guy who was a refugee from Vietnam, and he'd really struggled. He came to me, and we developed this, it was sort of strange connection where I'd get a thought, he'd come to mind, and I'd ring him, and it was exactly at the moment he was challenged by something and he needed some help. And it just happened a number of times, and it's like, wow, this is pretty freaky. And then one day...
Normal.
It's become normal.
I like to think of it as normal.
It's normal, but
we've
when it first started, it was freaky. It's like,
yeah.
whoa, how does this work?
Seemingly is
and
freaky,
then there was one day when I just got the urge and I called him, and he was about to commit suicide. Now, I don't deal with depression and suicide, but for some reason I called this guy at that moment, and I just kept him on the phone and talked to him and got him to go to hospital and check himself in, and it turned out it was a good story. One of the most humbling things he says is that I saved his life. Now, I find that I struggle with that concept. I know I helped, but he saved his own life by getting himself to hospital. But it's when you get that connection with someone where you don't need to say something, you just know, and then you say something, it's like, yeah, and you said earlier, it's like, how do you know what I'm thinking? And it's like, there is that connection, you get that spiritual connection that's really cool.
It's like you can sit there and enjoy doing nothing together.
Yeah. Fortunately, I've got that with my wife Anna. We have an amazing connection, and there's times when we just look at each other and smile, like, yep.
That's my wife's name, by the way.
Yes, I realise that.
What are some of the most transformational works you've done? Transformational work, one where, somebody's pretty much had, no hope and it's turned into, a great success story. Has there been anything like that?
There's probably been a number of them.
One that stands out?
I guess it comes back to, the most satisfying ones is when it's not an individual, but it's a team. And one of the things we've set ourselves up for is that we do one-on-one coaching, but we also work with, the ideal thing is we work with one-on-one with the leaders, and then we work with the wider teams. And when you're working with a group of people like that, where you're coaching the leaders, and it might be one or more, and we've done this on a number of occasions, and you're delivering master classes for the wider teams, and doing facilitation as well of planning events and things, and you see everyone across the business or everyone that you're working with improve, and they start to, the whole culture starts to change, the whole attitude of the people within the business changes and improves to the point that they're just so switched on, so positive, and everything becomes easy for them. And it's like, yeah, this is how it's meant to be. This is why we do what we do. I'm not sure that there's one that comes to mind, because there's been a number of them.
That's the most satisfying part of what you do.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's why you love doing what you do, I guess.
Seeing people excel and go from really struggling to get up and go to work every day and live life and be happy, to realising that everything is a blessing as such, and they can enjoy everything they're doing, and they feel fulfilled and they're happy, and every time you see them they've got a smile on their face. But before it was always the upside down smile, they were really stressed. Now they're just enjoying everything. It's like, yeah, that's cool. It's life changing for a lot of people.
It's a lot of lessons to be learnt.
Oh, look,
through all that.
For me as well, when I'm coaching people, and there's often we'll cover something and I'll ask a question and we'll work through something, and it's like, whoa, I need to listen to this, because this is me too.
I want to take you back. Now we're talking about lessons. I want to take you back to the old Craig, the unpopular leader, right? To today, where you're having such a dramatic impact on so many people's lives. What would you say are the pillars that you live your life by now?
First one, I think I learnt from Tony Robbins. If you're not growing, you're dying. If you look at anything on this planet, animal or vegetable, if it's not growing, it's dying. So I
love that.
What you were talking about just then.
Can we write that down?
If our whole aim in life is to continually grow, physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and if we can look at life and every experience, there's something to learn, there's something we can grow in some way, and we're always seeking new information, we're always seeking to learn, read books, watch podcasts, go to seminars, talk to people who really stretch your thinking, you're on a winner. And if you look at people, either they're experiencing major disease and traumas in life, or they get to the elderly stage. It's when they give up and don't learn and don't progress and don't continue to live life, they go downhill very quickly. I guess it comes back to what you focus on, and every day of the week, every week of the year. If you focus on what you don't have, what's missing, what you haven't done, all the negative things, and there's plenty of negative things you can focus on, you're going to have a pretty unhappy life.
But the paradox is you may not be able to focus one day. In my mum's case.
So while you can, make sure you do.
So absolutely. So while you're here...
And this is the other thing too.
Stay present, yeah.
Stay present and always continue to learn and grow and expand and keep yourself and your physically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually active.
Yeah, so keeping yourself active, creating some rituals and daily activities that keep you in the go. So it leads me to my next question to you is, what's some of the greatest, simplest rituals you would recommend to making a positive change every day?
For me, and this is the thing, it's different individuals, it's people, it's about finding what suits you. For me, it's about making sure I'm breathing. I talked about breathing deep into the belly. I do that regularly. I meditate. Meditation is a brilliant thing for those who do it, and I know you do it as well. And we've talked a lot about that. And if you don't like it, keep practicing, because you can get the hang of it. Find someone who you enjoy listening to meditate. Exercise is a brilliant one. Healthy eating, healthy lifestyle. Have some good hobbies. Anna and I both go to the gym regularly. I ride a mountain bike to keep fit. But we also go scuba diving, and one of the amazing things for me with scuba diving is when you first put your gear on, it's all a big hassle. You got a wetsuit and it's all heavy, and you get in the water, and as you go under, it's really noisy because the bubbles are going off, and then within about 20 to 30 seconds, it's like I go into Zen mode. Everything just goes quiet, and all I'm focused on is what's in front of me, what I can see through the mask, and it quietens the mind because there's so much noise going on that we struggle to focus. And when you talk about business, all that noise creates stress, and when we're stressed and when our mind is busy and thinking about 100 things at once, we are far less productive.
One of my favourite sayings ever is that you can sit stationary, or you should sit stationary and still, and allow the world to offer itself freely to you.
I think that might be a Deepak thing.
It was, yeah, actually it was, yeah, it's a Deepak thing. But look, for me, the notion of being able to just immerse yourself in stillness is an amazing concept in itself.
And look, some people, the reason I talk about a whole bunch of other things, some people who have been really busy and on the go for a long period of time will really struggle with that, and it's like, they go like, sit still and think about nothing, you're kidding me.
We're going back to fear again, right?
Yeah, but it takes practice, so do some things that help you get there, and if you practice those rituals on a daily basis, we can all get to that point where you can actually just sit and breathe and go into that nothing space. And as males, we're much better at it than females because we're just good at going into the empty box.
Careful with that.
Yeah, I know.
Careful with that. We can't do more than one thing at a time, apparently. Right?
But we're really, it's about getting into the empty box.
Take it easy.
If you haven't,
I'm upset people right now.
There's a great YouTube video called Male and Female Brains. You've got to watch it.
Okay.
In the male brain, we've got the the nothing box, and we're very good at just going in it, and there's nothing going on. We're just blank up here.
Good.
And it's a really good practice to get into, to go into that nothing space and think about nothing.
I like doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favourite pastimes, to be able to sit with somebody and do nothing together. For me, that's a special thing to be able to do.
Just be.
Yeah. So Craig, in a situation of when I'm faced with challenges, I ask myself certain questions. What sort of questions do you ask yourself when you're faced with adversity?
Well, I think the obvious ones is what can I learn from this? How can I best handle this situation? What do I need to learn from this? But that's all about me. But then you can turn it around to the other person, going, well, one of the things I ask myself quite often is, what would drive this person to behave in this way, or to do that, or say that, and how can I help this person? Because in life, if we only focus on ourselves, it gets a bit, I guess you can say it's a bit selfish. But when we're here to contribute to the growth and progress and benefit of the people around us, it's incredibly satisfying. And we've all got beliefs and experiences and things, and we've all got rules around our beliefs of how things should be, how people should be, how situations should be. And we tend to perceive the world based on those beliefs and how we think things should be. But when we sort of try to let go of that and then understand the other person's model of the world and how they see things, we can actually expand our own view of the world. And it can lead you to that position of cognitive dissonance where you've got a belief that this is the way things are, and you see or hear something that contradicts that belief, and then it's like, there's a tennis match goes on in your mind about what's real and what's not, and why do I think it should be this when I'm seeing it should be that, and it can alter your whole perception of the world. And so not only thinking about the way we see things and how I can best handle myself, how can I best learn from the people around me, and how can I help them? Because there's always something to learn in every situation, in every experience.
It's almost a sense of vulnerability. If you can allow yourself to be vulnerable to that situation.
Absolutely, yeah. What
can I learn from this as opposed to the reverse?
And it's in business, it's really important for senior people. Historically, it's like the senior person should know everything about it. They direct, they tell everyone what to do, and they make sure they do it, and they're the fountain of knowledge. But leadership today is about being vulnerable and saying, look, guys, I don't know the answer to this. Together, let's work together to find the answer.
Some of the best decisions we've made here haven't necessarily been ours or mine. I have told you before that, I've reached out to mentors. I had this real problem with this, with setting up this fund, and so I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who's really good at it, and long-time veteran of funds management, and he's reaching out and doing a whole heap of research for me to get back and give me all the answers that we can give out to the listeners.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Thanks for listening to Developmental, Property and the Mind podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, available wherever you get your podcasts. Or to talk to Joe, visit trafalgar.com.au. That's TRIFALGA.com.au.